Am I on? Okay, all right. Good morning. At the end of my sermon and beginning of our communion, I'm going to invite not red, I mean yellow shirts people here and there to the front. And then we ask you to stand this altar area, behind this altar area. And I want you to pray for these people. As you come forward for the communion, as you go back to your seat, you stop by these people and pray for them. And just be obedient to God. I mean, God gave me this idea a few weeks ago. And I didn't really plan anything about this, but I just want to be obedient to Him. And then I want you to, pray for these people. They envy your prayers this week. So as you pray for them, remember them throughout the week so no one get hurt. Everybody will see Jesus in Redbird Mission this week. There was a little boy who wanted to meet Jesus. He knew it was a long trip to where he lived, so he packed his backpack with cupcakes, several cans of root beer, and started on his journey to meet Jesus. When he had gone about 3 blocks, he saw an elderly woman sitting on a park bench watching the pigeons. The boy sat down next to her and opened his backpack. He was about to take a drink from his root beer when he noticed that the lady looked hungry. So he offered her a cupcake, and she gratefully accepted and smiled at him. Her smile was so wonderful that he wanted to see it again. So he offered a root beer as well. Once again, she smiled at him. The boy was delighted. They sat there all afternoon eating and smiling without saying a word. As it started to get dark, the boy realized how tired he was and wanted to go home. He got up to leave, but before he had gone no more than 3 steps, he turned around and went back to the old lady and giving her a big hug. And she gave him her biggest smile ever. When the boy arrived home, his mother was surprised by the look of joy on his face. She asked him, "What has made you so happy today?" He replied, "I had lunch with Jesus." Before his mother could respond, he added, "You know what? She's got the most beautiful smile in the whole world." Meanwhile, the elderly woman also returned to her home with a great joy. Her son was stunned by the look of peace on her face. He asked, "Mother, what has made you so happy today?" And she replied, "I ate cupcakes in the park with Jesus." And before her son could reply, she added, "You know what? He's much younger than I expected." Have you seen Jesus lately? What did Jesus look like to you? Where is Jesus now? Let's answer to these questions from our passage this morning. In our passage this morning, we get a frightening picture of the coming judgment. In this passage, Jesus blesses some people for what they have done and invite them to the kingdom of God because they did care for Jesus during their lives on earth. In verse 35 to 40, "I was hungry and you fed me. I was thirsty and you gave me a drink. I was a stranger and you invited me into your home. I was naked and you gave me clothing. I was sick and you cared for me. I was in prison and you visited me." Confused, they ask, "Lord, when do we ever see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you something to drink, or a stranger or show you hospitality, or naked or give you clothing? When When did we ever see you sick or in prison and visit you? His answer is staggering. In verse 40, he said, all the king will say, I tell you the truth, when you did it to one of the least of these my brothers and sisters, you were doing it to me. It's shocking to all of us. Jesus is saying that we show tangible love for God in how we care for the poor and those who are suffering. He expects us to treat the poor and the desperate as if they were Christ Himself. If you and I believe that, as Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22, the two greatest commands are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind, and to love your neighbors as yourself, then this passage has a lot to teach us this morning. Basically, Christ is connecting the command to love God with the command to love your neighbor. By loving the least of this, we are loving God Himself. But you and I, we Christians generally often overlook an even more important place where Jesus can be found. In fact, according to our passage this morning, among the list, where they live is the most important place of all, because we will see and meet Jesus. In the same way, in the same chapter of our passage this morning, Christ condemns people to eternal punishment because they did not care for Him during their lives on earth. And Jesus made a surprising claim in verse 42 and following. I was hungry and you didn't feed me. I was thirsty and you didn't give me a drink. I was a stranger, you didn't invite me into your home. I was naked and you didn't give me clothing. I was sick and in prison and you didn't visit me. And this condemned protest, saying they never saw Christ in any of these positions of need. And Jesus responded in verse 45, I tell you the truth, whatever you did not do for one of the least of these, you did not do for me. Ouch. Oh my goodness. To me, it's like a stinging, unexpected slap in the face. How many of you heard this message before, heard this passage before in your life? How many of you? More than 10 times? 20? 100 times? How many of you were convinced by this passage and thought of each person you came into contact with as Christ? The one who's slow driving on Peavine Road. I met someone on the way here this morning. And I asked myself, is that you, Lord? Like many of you, I've heard this passage taught on numerous occasions. When I listen to, their preaching in revival or in a regular worship service, I've left convinced, but haven't taken it literally. We see it as a fresh perspective on poverty rather than a literal picture of impending judgment. I hope and pray that you all take this passage seriously and literally this morning. Literally. So you will see Jesus everywhere and have a chance to serve and care for Him before you stand before God on Judgment Day. Brother Moses, have you seen Jesus lately? Thank you for asking. Yes, I did. I saw Jesus a few weeks ago. She was one of our homebound members. She wanted to receive Holy Communion from Barnabas ministry we have. For just a minute, she looked like a little like one of the ladies who regularly attend our church, 8:15, 9:30, and 11 o'clock service. But it was Jesus. I could tell by her smile. I saw Jesus last week. He lost his wife of 56 years. I saw his tears during the memorial service. When I saw him at the reception after memorial service, all I could was hug him and cry with him. For just a minute, he looked like the man I saw at the worship service at 11 o'clock service. But he was Jesus. I could tell by his tears. I prayed for many Jesus last week. I prayed for communities impacted by Hurricane Michael, keeping them safe from all dangers and to calm all the storms of life that threaten them, especially the damages of winds and the devastation of floods and tidal waves. For a minute, they were like just other victims of natural disaster. But it was many Jesus. I could tell by their loss and agony. I sent a note of encouragement to Jesus last week. Can you believe that I write something to Jesus last week? She's dealing with the death of her husband. For just a minute, she looked like just another person who is in grief. But it was Jesus. I could feel her loss of her husband of 3 months. They've been married for 3 months. Can you believe that? I visited Jesus in hospital last Friday. She was waiting for her surgery. We prayed together for successful surgery and good recovery. For a minute, she looked like just another person who needed a surgery, but it was Jesus. I could tell by the look of sincere suffering in her eyes. Where is Jesus now? He's alive and well and living among the list. Then why is it so hard to find Jesus in our lives? Because we all too often overlook Jesus who lives among the list. We are looking for him in different places. Let's keep it simple. When you take food to the sick and the one who lost a loved one, you take food to whom? Jesus. When you take Holy Communion to homebound members and church members in nursing homes, you take Holy Communion to whom? Jesus. When you send a note of encouragement to members who are dealing with the illness and the death of their loved ones, you send a note of encouragement to whom? Jesus. When you give a ride to members who have a doctor's appointment in various places or take members to their rehab. I know some of you sign up for Allison's ride to her rehab every month. Brother, sister, you give ride to Jesus. When you visit homebound members or provide respite to a caregiver, much needed time, she does errands and then haircut, or grocery shopping, her own doctor's appointment. You not only visit Jesus, but also provide respite to Jesus. When you pray for members of their families who are affected by this Hurricane Michael, or going through chemo and radiation, and then we've been praying for Stella, the baby, going through with her illness. You pray for Jesus. This morning, 14 of us, am I correct, 14, including myself? Oh my goodness, okay. 13 of us are going to see Jesus in Beverly, Kentucky. I'm no longer saying that we are helping someone so in Beverly, Kentucky, because we are looking forward to seeing Jesus in Beverly, Kentucky, who is physically and financially unable to fix his or her household repairs. Brother Moses, I often, asked by, church members, why do you do what you do? Why do you do what you do? Maybe the answer is simple, because you pay me to do this. Why do you go to Kentucky every year to help the poor? I set aside this time because it's my commitment to the poor, because I've been busy with doing so many things in our church, and I set aside this time. And my family knows that every September or October I'm going to Kentucky. Why do you visit someone in hospitals and nursing homes? Why do you pray for people who are dealing with illness and the death of loved ones? Why do you encourage people to write or call members who are going through difficult times in their lives? The answer is simple, because when I do it to one of the least of this, to my brothers and sisters, when I do this to our church members and people in this community, I am convinced that I'm doing it to Jesus. If I say I'm doing this because you pay me to do it, then I don't know how do I do this every day. Nobody wants to get up 3 a.m. in the morning to go to Knoxville or Nashville. Nobody wants to talk to people for hours, or call 50, 100 calls every week. I'm glad to do it. Nancy, I'm super excited to do this. Nancy and I, we have greeting each other. Are you super excited today? Yes, I'm super excited today, because I'm going to see Jesus. I'm going to see Jesus in Life Care. I'm going to see Jesus in Chattanooga. I'm going to see Jesus in Cookville. I'm going to see Jesus in Good Samaritan Society. I'm going to see Jesus someone's house. Brothers and sisters, here's the one problem I have. We need your help to reach out to Jesus everywhere, because we pastors and the church staff can see and meet the needs of Jesus among us without your help. That's why we give you, do you remember this book? We call it the Commitment Guide 2 weeks ago. We are giving this book to you because we need your help. I can't do this by myself. Yeah, I love to meet Jesus everywhere, but I can't meet everybody without your help. The question is, are you too busy or too self-involved to see Jesus and help Jesus among us? If you want to see and help Jesus among us, here's the one thing we all must do this week. Here's the one thing. I know some of you already submitted this book to us, but those who are not submitted this book yet, or you can pick up another one, and then what you have to do this week is find Jesus in this commitment book. Where's Jesus in our commitment book? I can give you a hint. Page 12, mutual care, and then following, you can find plenty of Jesus. I give you a hint. Page 12, especially, you can find Jesus there. A lot of Jesus there. When you find Jesus in our commitment book, check one or more. Check, okay? I'm committed to do this. And submit this book to us by the end of October, and then we'll take care of it. We'll call you. We'll email you. Welcome to the board, and then we'll use you to see Jesus everywhere. Mother Teresa once said, we believe that Jesus is Lord, and then we go out every day to try to find Him and care for Him. This morning, Marty and his band, we have a name, Revelation, but Marty and bunch of guys and girls. uh, they sang this special song, "In the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, in the morning when I rise, give me Jesus." You know, every morning this should be your prayer. Give me Jesus, give me Jesus. You can have all this world. Just give me Jesus. Have you seen Jesus lately? Come and draw near to the least among us. Amen.